Dirt,
Currently, it's grass. Yes.
just grass.
Yep. We had
So-
closed it.
So the request is to make it into a street?
We just had, this is the request that we received. This is the only information that we had received.
So the request, does it say don't drive on it or anything right now?
Unfortunately, sir, this is the only information that we have from them.
Street,
It's a platted street, but.
It's a platted street. Well, we got platted streets all over town that don't drive on them.
Yeah, we had fenced it, I believe, 2 years ago to keep people from driving on it because it was
Mud.
It was mud. It was a
Mud.
platted road, but it wasn't actually paved, and it was being used, and it deteriorated. So the council had requested a fence be put up on both ends to keep the traffic out.
Actually, I think the request came from a neighbor, not from the
Yeah, I
council to
don't
put up
think
the
it came from
fence.
the council.
Yeah, the
Okay.
request came from someone who lived on that street to the traffic commission, asking them to close it because of the dust that was coming in through the house.
That's right.
At the time, there wasn't anyone else that came to the traffic commission speaking in opposition to that. I know that this group of people have made contact with city council members. They've called traffic several times. They were told to submit a petition if they want to have that street considered to be reopened. So would be surprised if no one has heard from this.
I haven't heard anything. So if we took the barricades down and just say, go ahead and drive on it, do we post a sign that says drive at your own risk, unimproved road like you do in the county?
I think part of the concern is even with bikes and those kinds of things Kevin might have more information.
I know there's a road, there's Matty, what's the next one, Birch, I think?
To the south.
And then,
Yeah, I know,
Then there's like a gravel road you can drive through.
right, but it's not,
It's going east. But they want to take golf carts and bikes. They can't go, they put barricades on the sidewalks, they can't get down the sidewalks.
so
The street's been blocked off with a.
it is not a street. I guess that's the part, it's not an improved street, it's just platted. So people driving on it are really just driving on a field.
I think they want the fence removed is what they want.
So would that satisfy them, just removing the fence? But then, so what is the city's liability if somebody gets stuck on there?
I think that's something where you could, like you suggested, post some kind of signage.
I'm just trying to
I know
figure
all
out
the
what the
neighbors-
resolution is that they're asking for.
All the
Because if
neighbors-
it's curbed and guttered and a complete street that they can drive on, the answer is no. See where it fits in our 5-year plan. But why would we do just one block instead of all of Matty and waste the time and money of
Drive on.
mobilization of one block instead of doing all 10 or 12 blocks all the way to the highway, which was an idea that we had in the past. Yeah, see, there it is. It's not a street. So what advantage is that giving anybody in that neighborhood?
They can drive their golf carts down there, they can drive their bikes down there.
To-
The whole-
to
the
to
whole
go
area-
where?
All the street, get to Quiet Avenue. The golf course most likely.
Okay. But
But all the neighbors in that neighborhood signed a petition.
so I see that, but so the only it's a convenience thing because there are roads that completely can take them to Quiet Lane to get there.
There is, but if you go another block east.
You go
can
another
drive
block
down that road
east.
too. From Matty to. East or south? South. South.
Right, and until we approve a plan that takes Matty Street all the way down, those are all just going to be dead ends.
But you can go south, north and south on that.
I can go north and south in those trees there too.
If you want to, you can, I suppose, but it'd be a lot easier if that fence was down and they could get through there. That's what they.
Yeah, but what if they get stuck in the mud?
You get stuck, a lot of people got stuck in the water the other day. I mean, what's the difference?
Yeah, but not on
between
a,
mud?
not on an unimproved, non-platted street.
Wish that some of the neighbors were there because they've talked to me numerous times on it. You heard from John?
I've got calls from neighbors too, and they're
I-
concerned about the fence there. And they do want it for convenience, coming down Birch, heading to Matty Street and heading north a block, get on Quiet, and they can do their business down there at the golf course they want. That's what it's for.
Okay. But, so then my question is, what's the liability? So we open it, we take the fences down and say, unimproved street, enter at your own risk. I mean, if somebody gets stuck in there, are they insured? Are they, if there's an accident, what do we do?
They get stuck a block south of there too, because you can drive,
Well, there's,
there's no sign there.
but there's no road there.
Yeah, there is.
No, it's an
Well,
unimproved,
they drive on
it's
it.
an unimproved, non-platted
drive
road. So well, people can drive anywhere they want.
I think it is platted.
It is platted.
It's a right of way dedicated to that street. It is platted, it's just not approved.
Right.
Does that sidewalk go from Quiet Street to Birch on the west side all the way through it? The map doesn't show it, but I believe this
Is
is
it?
an older map.
Yeah, I can't pull it up anymore.
It doesn't?
Not without.
Does it go all the way to the next street?
Well,
It doesn't?
this street is developed now.
Yep.
This
Yep.
street is developed now. These are like 2-block-long
Yep.
streets. I think that one section's the only one that's, I'm trying to think off memory. I think there's only that one block that's closed between 2 streets. The other ones are, I can't pull up the. current-
Mr. Croce, what's your plan for, are you looking to get that open all the way down and paved?
So it would be,
Is it in a plan for near future?
we've talked about it this year as far as getting it into our 5-year plan. I think it would alleviate a lot of the traffic issues in that location and for that neighborhood. I think Jessica has an issue on bus pickup as well.
Jessica Pickett, Palace Transit. We actually have passengers on Sneed. Our policy is not to back, Sneed is, yep,
Next one.
yep, right there. And we have passengers in that area that we pick up and drop off. Our policy is not to back up unless absolutely necessary. We have to back up because there's no through way to get to that street, and we are dropping off children in that area. So we do pull in and back up. If Maddie was completely developed, we wouldn't have to worry about that, but I know it
I
won't be
agree if
developed
it's
in this.
completely developed, but that's not what this petition is asking
Right.
for from, in my opinion.
I'm just saying in future use, that would help if that would get developed in the future for transit-wise.
My other question here is a sidewalk. You said it's blocked off somewhere? Why would a sidewalk be blocked off? Go somewhere.
This is a sidewalk here.
That's Bill's house. I used to live out there. Right. Who lives to the south?
Westgard lives here. Dennis Westgard lives there. There's a fence across here, big sign, road closed, boom, you couldn't get through if you wanted to, with a bike, golf cart, anything. No sidewalk carries on. Charlie Shoe builds a twin home here. It's fenced, and then it's kind of, you can't go anywhere. I mean, you come here and north or south, off of this road, or off of that road, but it would be very difficult to get right back through here with, especially as wet as it's been, with anything.
I can see why the other side of it doesn't have a sidewalk, because we don't approve a sidewalk if it doesn't have curb and gutter.
Yeah, Terry Johnson with the engineering department. There is a sidewalk that continues past Bill Buckmiller's. And
This one might be a little bit more recent. That looks a little better.
yeah, so where it says 1824, that's where Charlie lives. And there is a sidewalk there
All the way there. Okay.
that continues to the sidewalk that is on Birch Street. So a bicyclist could go on the sidewalk.
Which one is Birch Street?
Right there, it says East Birch.
See where it says 1824?
So there is a thing that goes the whole west side of that.
Yeah, and the fence is between the sidewalk and the right-of-way line to the east.
So it's over here?
Yeah,
Okay, I have my finger.
Is there a reason why the sidewalk's blocked off?
the sidewalk is not blocked off.
It is not blocked off. Okay.
Someone has a garden in there right away.
Let them drive through.
I found it. But no.
So the fence that's there goes from the edge of the sidewalk over here. There's a fence right there, and then there's a fence right here, then the sidewalk
Oh.
continues up this way. So if bicycles did want to go through there, they could go through there. There is a little bit of fence on this corner right here, so you can't go on the street and go on the sidewalk. You just got to follow the sidewalk and then you can continue up.
But there's no fence on the south side, right, between Sneed and Birch?
There is not, this is open,
People drive that way.
yeah.
They're driving there now?
Yeah, I think the issue that became here is when they were building houses in here, there was concrete trucks and different things that kind of drove through here, created a big mess, people got stuck, and I think that's when the request came through.
And I think people even drive from Sneed down to Charles,
Charles and then out and around.
because those are really long blocks, so.
Yeah. Well, if it satisfies them to take the fence down, what's the risk of taking the fence down? Any legal?
I don't think it'd be significant, especially if you put a sign up there.
Because there's no fence between.
Yeah, they can go on that other block.
There's no, you can drive on.
Yeah, yeah, no maintenance.
Could you have your traffic people put that up, Mr. Croce?
Yes, we could do that. I guess my only concern would be further down to the south is, you know, how far are they going to go? And that elevation changes pretty drastically right
After
where that,
Charles, right?
yep.
Yeah.
And so is somebody going to want to go all the way to Havens? They can't make it, but they'll try. I mean,
There's
they
no
may
fence
try.
there right now, is there? Down there?
No.
Well, you'll do it once and that'll be it.
I want to make a motion to go ahead and take the fence down.
Yeah, I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to take the fence down and sign it appropriately.
Yes.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Second item on the agenda is a request to close the street for the Parade of Lights. Mitchell Main Street and beyond would like to request a parade permit, street closures, and no parking for Tuesday, December 3rd, 2019 for the Parade of Lights beginning at 7 p.m. Following street closures and no parking beginning at 4 p.m. Tuesday, December 3rd. Main Street from Railroad Avenue through 9th, 9th Avenue from Rowley to Lawler, Railroad from Rowley to Kimball, the city parking lot just north of the Depot Pub and Grill. The floats will line up for the parade, will be first through Railroad Avenue on Main Street, including 2 blocks east of Railroad and 1/2 block west on Railroad, allowing for the entrance to the Depot Restaurant. In addition, it is requested that the streetlights on Main Street be turned off at 7 p.m. for start time for the duration of the parade. This is a repeat event for us. There are no changes to it.
This isn't any different than last year, is it?
No changes. No.
Okay. I'll move approval of the request for Parade of Lights.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
One item to note, the last item on your agenda says the next Traffic Commission meeting is scheduled for Monday, October 21st. That will not be the case because we will be moving those into city council meetings now.
You're off the hook.
We have a motion and a second. We are adjourned.
Tell City Council meeting in order to start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Invocation, resurrection,
It says Salvation Army, but I think it's a typo. I'm Pastor John Hanson, Resurrection Lutheran Church. Happy to be here. Mayor, council, members, let's pray. Gracious God, we give you thanks for a new day of life. We give you thanks for moisture, but if there's anything you can do in the future to stretch 10 inches out into maybe 8-9 months, that would be good, but we're thankful for the moisture. But we ask you to watch over all those who are struggling because of the water. Bless and watch over our first responders and all the city folks that are working to help to get the town cleaned up. And remember our neighbors in Sioux Falls and Parkston, wherever they're at and struggling with the water. But tonight we ask that you give the council wisdom and understanding, help them to know you're in their midst, give them good discussions, good decisions, give us all grateful hearts and empower us with your peace And we are thankful for all your gifts and bring this all to you in the name of your Son, our Savior Jesus. Amen. So did I hear that right? You're going to move the Traffic Commission into the council meeting in the future? Good, because I was going to say we should pray before the Traffic Commission, because sometimes a
This will
prayer
speed
could
it up
help.
for you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Sabers. Rice.
Here.
Dosher. McCardle. Barrington. Allen.
Here.
Charts. Here. Smith.
We have a quorum. Approval of consent agenda items. The items appearing on consent agenda may be removed by a city council member for discussion at the beginning of the formal agenda items. Is there anything you wish to remove? Discussion on the items. I will point out that we are appointing nuisance appeals board members. This takes place at city council members who used to be on the nuisance appeal board. They will now be citizens and not council members.
Move to approve the consent agenda.
We have a motion by Mrs. Sharp,
Second.
second by Mr. Cardle. Further discussion? Roll call, please.
Dosher. McCardle.
Aye.
Allen.
Aye.
Charts. Aye. Sabers. Rice.
Motion carries. Citizens input. If you need to address the mayor, members of city council on an item that was not on the agenda, excluding personnel items, please come forward to the podium, state your name and your concern. Presentations are limited to 3 minutes. Items will be considered, but no action will be taken at this time. Who wishes to address?
Joanne Garrett. My concern is my alley. My husband and I have called Kevin Roth 3 times this summer about our alley because water comes down Birch, which is elevated, and it turns into our alley and washes everything out. We've had ruts like 5 inches deep. I was always going to go out and measure them, but I didn't, but that's a guesstimate. And he has told us that, you know, the city's really busy because of winter damages and couldn't get there. Well, at the beginning of summer or late spring, whenever we had that big gush of water, we got water in our basement. And it wasn't as bad as last week. But now then, this last week, we got a lot of damage because the whole basement got water in it. And part of it is, I mean, the water comes down Birch and it just turns into our alley. Obviously, there's nothing in between, like sewer, to catch that water. And it just washes everything out. It goes clear into the front of our garage, up into our yard, up to our basement windows, and it just comes in. And I don't understand why we can't get something done, either engineering-wise or regrade the alley to go the other way, because our neighbors are much higher than we are. And we've had this problem for many, many years. And I just would like to see something done. It's very frustrating.
Mr. Croce, can you look into that this week or next week?
Yes, sir, we will.
Thank you. Okay.
Thank you.
Come on up if you want to talk. Now's your chance. 3 minutes, Mr. Valley.
Evening, folks. My name is Mike Valley. I have a warehouse down on Juniper, and that's the area that's from Burr to Lawler. There's a group of us that are on Juniper Street. If you know where Corona Village is, just going west of there. During this 7-inch rain event, we had a lot of water there. We're at the bottom of the bowl, and it got bad. I'll just tell you, on my building, on the outside from the ground up to the water line was 51 inches. So that's right here. If you wanted to walk out the door, you would have been. Now, from the foundation up to the water line was only 46. My building's up a little bit. But on the inside, it was only 23, so it was only 2 foot deep. But if you just go, all your chairs, everything else, they're gone. All the conference room chairs, everything it's gone. Carpet, the whole bit. You know, and I'll tell you a fun story, just so you get a perception of how deep it was. I had my 26-foot pontoon in front of the warehouse. And I think she's been upset with me when I got a newer boat. And she has been drinking a little bit, and she saw this water building up, and I think she looked down at the trailer and says, "Come on, let's make a run for it." Got about a quarter block before it hit a street pole. But that's how deep it was. It took the boat and the trailer, because I had them fence stretcher to hold it on, and took it right on down the street. So it was a lot of water, and I'm probably the least affected of the people. The person that rents mine had all his seed corn out of there, or it really wouldn't have been a problem because it's 6,000 square feet. But I'm going to lose. The toughest part for me is all my pictures, all mementos of all things I've done, and I mean they're gone. The only good part is if IRS wants anything, it's gone too. So, but there are others of us, and it is a problem. We did meet today with the city. Kyle was nice enough to set up a meeting with us, and we're looking at it, but we felt you needed to know about this problem, and it's big. If you go down there and go in front of my warehouse and just look east, west, north, south, it all flows right there, and there's just not enough to get it out of there. So I'll let the others just tell their story, but it's big time for the other guys. To me, it's my renter was out of there, so now it's just 4 hours sleep a night and digging out carpet and all that kind of stuff. So, thank you.
Tom Patzer. We own Patzer Woodworking. We own 2 properties on Juniper. We own a property at 414 East Juniper, and we own one at 501 East Juniper. Our business at 414 is 32,000 square feet, consists of showroom and warehouse and a shop space. We had 12 inches level through our whole building, so our loss is very significant. We lost all of the cabinets in our showroom. We lost cabinets in 10 offices. We lost a warehouse full of cabinets ready to deliver this week, and that amounted to a lot of money, okay? And don't know how to fix it, but we did meet tonight, and the city is hopefully going to chat about it. The building we own across the street, we bought 2 months ago, kind of silly, and it had 8 inches in it, so we pulled out all the carpets, all the floors, all the everything for this whole works, and it's actually pretty tragic because fortunately we've been in business 38 years. We'll survive this, but we probably can't afford it again, so it'd be really nice to see the city put some thought into the project that you TIFed for 5 years ago or 4 years ago, whenever it was. That's going to take care of to a certain point, but it doesn't do really much for for our street, and we just like to see it taken care of, or at least looked into, so that it doesn't happen again. We'd like to stay in Mitchell for a few more years. Thank you.
Thank you. Others?
Pam Wittstruck. I'm actually a resident in that area, and I don't want to be overlooked because of the businesses. We've lived there for 31 years, and we're used to the water in the basement. It happens every time we get more than an inch of rain. So we have built everything clear up high. And I sat there Wednesday night and watched my living room and then my kitchen all go underwater. And like you said, it's a lot of money. I have new cabinets. Those aren't cheap. We've got the carpet, the drywall. They're pulling I'm 54 years old, and I have to completely redo my house and get a homeowner's loan again and hopefully get it paid for before I die. It's just really frustrating because my husband has complained, and I know clocks, and we've just tried, and every time you guys say you do a fix, it makes it worse. My opinion.
Anybody else?
Drew Boyden. I'll speak on behalf of any of the residents from the Loma Linda Trailer Court out on the southwest side of town. We're still inundated. It's my understanding that the water retention ponds that are to the west of the two motels out there are the city's property and or responsibility. We asked for help out there. We didn't get any. That water's been in there since the spring, and no mitigation efforts were made to try and lower those water levels. I was told by a city employee that you haven't been able to even get a truck out to check that tile that runs over through the Millers to the Beshens for the last 2 months. Seems to me, if it's been that it was too wet, that some material could be brought in there to allow that truck to get in there and do its job. I just think that something should have been done after the spring thaw and the rain and the snow that we had, and it appears to me that nothing was even attempted. I was told that your city crew, some of the street department people came out and looked around for about 5 minutes and said, there's nothing we can do, and they left. So I know that everybody's dealing with a lot of water, but this is directly related to city property and those retention ponds. So something needs to be done there. Pump that water to the bypass so it ends up in the storm sewer system, something. But we can't just keep going on like this. If we get another rain here this weekend, I'm assuming that the water's going to be back over the road, and any thing we've gained pumping water out is going to be lost. So, thank you.
Anybody else? One thing I want to point out is Davidson County has on their site a way they need to report to FEMA for possible mitigation of things from FEMA. So if you would, please report to Mr. Bathke any damages and the costs you expect to incur with those, so that he could have that for his report, so that can go into FEMA for possible assistance through the government. So he has that on, I think, on his website, on the emergency management team for Davidson County. So I would encourage you to please submit those costs to him. There it is.
Mr. Mayor, I think we have a handout in the back as well for anyone that's here. Just to talk to a few points. Last council meeting, the council approved the southwest area drainage preliminary plan, and I think we'll look into that area as well, which includes the Loma Linda neighborhood. So again, we're working on that preliminary plan through our consultants. Council approved it last council meeting. We're working with, and we'll continue to work with Mike Valley and Mr. Patzer and the rest of the business owners and any of the residents that would like to work with us. We are going to look at what is included in the TIF, how far that extends. Once we get that design, we'll see if it does alleviate some of the drainage issues that are in the area outside that we talked about. If not, we'll look into a full-blown drainage design for that area, because I think it's one of the areas in the city that's heavily needed. So we'll work with them through the rest of the year on getting a plan together.
Okay. Thank you. Anybody else wish to address council? Okay. Committee reports.
Traffic Commission met at approximately 8:03 this evening with 2 items on the agenda. First was a request from the residents in the area of Maddie Street. They requested that Maddie be opened between Quiet Lane and East Birch. After discussion, it was decided to remove a fence and put appropriate signage up. Put up appropriate signage to reflect that the road is open with some restrictions as far as liability issues. That was approved. Second item on the agenda was a request for street closure for the Parade of Lights, that being on December 3rd, 2019, for the Parade of Lights beginning at 7 p.m. They requested a number of street areas and a parking lot be closed, which is the same request that we have had in recent years for that event, and that was also approved. The commission adjourned at approximately 8:16 p.m.
Okay, entertain a motion?
Move to approve.
Motion by Mr. Allen. Second by Mr. McCardle. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address it? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carried.
Mr.
Sure.
Mayor?
Yes.
Could I tack on to committee reports? I did want to give the council just an update on the airport. The report is included in the binder, but we are scheduling Helms to come in and do a 5 to 10 minute presentation on where we're at. We're looking for actually a planning meeting with them as well. We've gone through some changes with the FAA and their requirements on the runway repair. So we'll have our consultant come in and talk to you a little bit more about how that happened and where we're at and where we're going.
Okay.
Additionally, we have the water study and the water model, which we're looking over the next couple months of getting a final report. Our consultants, they do have the water study almost complete. They have to finish cost estimates on each of the options. So we'd like our consultant to come in October as well, present to the council on that, and give you all the information.
Okay. Thank you. Anything else? Hearings and actions on the following alcohol licenses. On the application of Palisade Lions Club for special event liquor license located at the D.W. Sherman Center for October 4th, 2019 for the Blue and White United All Alumni Reunion.
Anything, Mike?
Public safety would have no opposition to this.
Okay.
Sounds like a fun party. I'll move approval.
Motion by Mr. Rice. Second by Mr. Sabers. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address it? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. On application of Corn Palace Shrine Club for special event liquor license located at the Masonic Hall, October 11th, 2019 for the Sportsman Classic.
Again, public safety to have no opposition to this.
Motion by Mr. Sayers, second by Mr. McCardle. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address it? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Board of Adjustment entertain a motion for the City Council to recess and sit as the Board of Adjustment. Motion by Mr. Rice.
Second.
Second by Mr. Allen. Jeff? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Action to set the date for Board of Adjustment hearing 10/7/2019. Terry and Francis Rietveld has applied for a backyard roadside variance of 22 feet versus 30 feet as required for the construction of a new home at 95 South Harmon Drive, legally described as lots 4849, Indian Head Addition, City of Mitchell, Davis County, South Dakota. Said real property is RL, single-family residential.
Set the date.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Allen, second by Mr. Rice. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address this? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Hearing an action on Lamar Advertising, a property owned by David and Connie Diner located on I-90 west of the city. Lamar Advertising is the applicant. David and Connie Diner are the owners, have applied for a conditional use permit variance to replace at the same location the off-premise billboard sign that was destroyed by a storm. The new sign will exceed the 300 square feet in sign area standard. It'll be approximately 400 square feet. The property is legally described as the southwest quarter, excluding H4 south of I-90 and except the east 1,513.27 feet line south of I-90, excluding Lot A of Beshan's addition line within Section 29, Township 103 North, Range 60 West, Davis County, South Dakota. Property is zoned highway district.
Just to make a quick observation, just as noticing that there's only 6 of you, so any motion would have to be passed unanimous. So this application was submitted to the Planning Commission at their last regular meeting and did unanimously recommend approval. This is just west of town, and it's in the same spot it was destroyed in a windstorm, I believe. So.
And was the previous one oversized also?
It was over the 300 limit, but I think this one's going to be approximately 378, 388.
Over is over, right?
Yeah, right. As soon as it has to be, as soon as it hits over 300, but it has to be under 600. Okay. And then it also has to be approved by the DOT. So.
Planning Commission did approve it.
Yes, recommend approval.
Move to approve.
Motion by Mrs. Childs, second by Mr. Sabers. Further discussion? Is there anybody in the audience wishes to address it? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Hearing in action on Selena Thomas, 622 South Wisconsin Street. Selena Thomas has applied for conditional use permit to operate a massage business, home occupation at 622 South Wisconsin, legally described as Lot 7, Block 8, Van Epp, Second Edition, City of Mitchell, Davis County, South Dakota. Property is zoned R2, medium density.
Again, the planning commission did hold a hearing on this at their last meeting and did unanimously recommend approval of the conditional use.
Move to approve.
Were there any
Mr. Allen?
conditions?
No, they
Comment?
didn't put any
Okay.
conditions
Mr.
on.
Allen, you make that?
Yes, I did.
Thank you. Motion by Mr. Allen, second by Mr. McCardle. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address it? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Hearing in action on Christie Duba, 1113 West Douglas Avenue. Christie Duba applicant and Long Brothers LLC owners have applied for a conditional use permit to operate an indoor recreation facility within the existing building located at 113 West Douglas Avenue. Legally described as the east half of lots 11 and 12, Block 12, Van Epp, First Edition, City of Mitchell, Davis County, South Dakota. Property zoned R3, medium density residential.
Again, the planning commission did hold a hearing on this at their last regular meeting and did recommend approval unanimously with two conditions. One, that obviously we have a code review, both from building and fire, which I believe they did have the fire marshal already inspected. And then it's coming back in 1 year. Because,
Okay.
So that's their recommendations. They are here, I see, if you've got questions of them.
I'll move approval with conditions.
Motion by Mr. Rice, second by
luck.
Mrs. Charles. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address it? Okay. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Hearing in action on Jason and Ramey Norgard, 1220 East Havens, Lot 103. Jason and Ramey Norgard have applied for a conditional use permit to operate a family residential child care business at the property located at 1220 East Havens, Lot 103. Brendan Mobile Village, legally described as Lot 1A, located in the southeast quarter, 22-103-60, excluding lots PE1, PE2, PE3. City of Mitchell, Davis County, South Dakota. Property is zoned R4, medium density residential. It's tabled from the last meeting.
Yes, the planning commission did discuss this at their last last meeting and did recommend denial. I don't know if she's here or if she's.
She's not here?
I don't believe so.
Part of the reason they recommended denial is the landowner
Right,
did not disapproved of it.
right. That came in after the previous planning commission meeting, so that's the reason.
And the fact that they're not here and they were denied at the planning and zoning, I feel like they should be here to fight for themselves.
I think
right?
this is the second time this has been up to. The first time they weren't there again, so they've had their chances.
Yeah, I will report that they have an appointment with the fire marshal this week, but I just thought I'd mention that.
The issue really is though that the landowner
Yeah.
is not for this.
If it's turned down, is the 6 months?
6 months, she can reapply.
I hate turning down.
Move to deny.
Motion by Mr. Allen,
I'll second.
second by Mr. Rice. Further discussion? Does anybody in the audience wish to address this one? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Reconvene as city council. Entertain a motion for the Board of Adjustment to adjourn the city council reconvene in regular session.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Rice, second by Mr. McCardle. Discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Action to award bid for Burr Street Median Landscape Project 2019-51. Mr. Croce, you going to speak to it?
Mr. Mayor and Council, yes, sir. This is for awarding the bid proposal for the landscaping project just south of Spruce all the way to K Street. And I believe we went through that last council meeting on the design and what's expected. So this is, the bid opening was performed on Thursday, September 5th. The low bidder is at James Valley Nursery, so staff recommends award to James Valley Nursery in the amount of $99,084.
Which is under the budget, correct?
Yes, sir.
And if this is approved, so when would they start? Would we try and do anything this fall? Try and go right away?
Yeah, their timeline was either spring or fall for seeding, so that's why we aimed for bidding now, so they could
Okay.
do the project this fall.
Okay. So if it doesn't wash them out, they could get started? Okay,
There is such a thing as too wet.
yeah. I'll move approval of James Valley for the bid for the landscaping of the Bird Street area.
Okay, motion by Mr. Rice, second by Mrs. Jerks. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address it? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Action to find that all feasible and prudent alternatives to demolition of 305 and 307 North Main Street properties have been considered and the demolition contract comply with certain conditions.
Just wanted to kind of give you, this is the final step in the historic review process that is required and set forth by state law. You could tell there's lots of material background in there for you. You could see the last letter that was dated from the Office of History saying that we have explored all feasible, at least in their opinion. But that's something that you, since that you're involved in this, that you have to make that same conclusion. And then also in the staff report, the Public Works Department set out a few things that they would like to be, the contractor to be required to do. And so I'll try to answer any questions that you may have, but like I said, no.
Well, I understand the State Historical Society has to go through their process, and they do deem that there are historical items that will be eliminated by tearing that down, but I don't see any other way, and I'll move approval of the final demolition document.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Rice, second by Mr. Allen.
The one thing I would point out in the historic.
With the conditions of the.
Historic, okay. Thank you. First, yeah,
Historical.
basically what they were requesting was before the demo takes place.
There's a list
some
of four
photographs.
thing order that
Right.
they need to go through, and then any redevelopment also has to be.
Right.
Okay, with that understanding.
Correct. Okay, thanks. Then I'll kind of.
Okay, further discussion?
Okay.
Anybody in the audience wish to address it? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Action to approve Agreement A 2019-42 Consulting Services for Flow and Stage Analysis for Lower Creek at USGS Project 2019-3C.
Mr. Mayor and Council, so what we've done so far after the purchase of the Kelly property is we're working with, I just wanted to give some background so that all the folks listening know that we've been working forward on this, on the property, as well as watershed improvements. Gone forward with a replat of the residents, working with James River Water Development District, NRCS, and USDA on watershed improvements, as well as going after additional grant funds for improvements in the area. This proposal is for work that U.S. Geological Survey will do for us on the water flow that's coming through Firesteel Creek. What we'd like to do is get as much data and historical data as well as up-to-date information that they have so that we can start designing the wetland and improvement area near lake solution. So this is our next partnership is with U.S. Geological Survey, Water Sciences Division, and their proposal is for $24,100 to collect that data and report that to us over the next 2 years. This information we'll gather this information and use that for a design on wetland, possible wetland areas in the Kelly property, as well as the areas adjacent to Lake Mitchell.
So we won't be able to design anything for 2 years until after we've collected the data?
Not necessarily. We do have a partnership with SDSU, part of their graduate program, and they will start working on a preliminary plan. I think once we get the data, we'll have a final answer and solution to a preliminary wetland overall, what elevations the vegetation needs to be at to survive and to promote and to really benefit what we need to do for water quality.
We are also discussing with James River Watershed Development to try and get them to use some of the grant money we've got.
So that map that you see up there was just a map that I included, and it's an area that could be potential wetland, could be potential filtering areas, as well as shoreline improvements on the west side of the lake. The orange area from that western side of the Kelly property all the way to and into the west side of the lake, that is an area that adds up to about 200 acres. So I think this is just an initial start. Nothing is set. This is not a plan, but these are potential areas of improvement that if we can work with this information and develop wetlands, shoreline stabilization, utilize the flow information, we believe we could get a significant amount of water quality improvement.
And what's the significance of the green ones?
Nothing. I changed color.
I'm going to go ahead and move to approve this agreement.
Second. Motion by Mr. Allen, second by Mrs. Charles. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address it? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Hearing an action on resolution 2019-57, levying Business Improvement District Number 3, special assessment for 2019-2020.
This is the second year of assessments for the Business Improvement District Number 3. This is required to be approved by council yearly. That's why you are seeing it again. You will see it every summer to fall.
Motion to approve it.
Motion by Mr. McCardle.
Second.
Second by Mr.
Any
Savers.
comment from the downtown business group at all? I mean, just yay, please approve it, or?
I talked to Jared Engdahl today, and he said he was going to be here at the beginning, but had to leave.
Okay, yeah, I know, I saw him here earlier.
So
I-
But
Jeff
Jeff is here. Jeff is here, and he's on the good board.
Yes, Jared asked me to sit in for him. If you have any questions, we'll be happy to answer them. Yes, we would urge you to continue it. We've been going through, the city attorney had to rewrite some of the code to meet whatever has to be done, and the mayor had to appoint 2 new members as we had 2 of our members resign. So no money has been awarded yet or used. But there hasn't been that much money to do much with anyway. So by getting a couple of collections, we feel we're still on track. And the business owners, I mean, there's been a little grumbling, but everyone does when they pay taxes.
Yep.
So other than that, I think it's going well and
Okay.
everything's positive.
Thank you.
Okay.
That's kind of what I just wanted an update. Thank you.
Anybody else wish to address this? For the comments from council? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Hearing an assessment roll for 2018 construction and 2019 nuisance abatements.
At this time, we'll hold the public hearing that we hold every year for the collection of special assessments, which would include sidewalk work that was done last year, the alley at Fifth and Raleigh that was also completed last year, and nuisance abatements, which are snow removal and snow removal and mowing charges. Just to kind of go through how the assessment process works is if this resolution is approved tonight, then starting tomorrow, we'll start 30 days of no interest onto their payment. After the 30 days is done, then 8% interest will start to be charged on your assessment. And at that time, that's the finance office, starting after tomorrow, will be sending out payment plans. The payment plan will be for sidewalk projects. You will have 5 years to pay it, and it'll go on your property taxes. For the alley at the Fifth and Raleigh parking lot, that'll be split up into 10-year payment plan on your property taxes. Nuisance abatements are all put into 1 year. So they will just have the 1 year to pay their nuisance abatements. With that, is there anyone here that's got a question about about any of their special assessments? All right, so with that, does the council got any questions? If not, then we can move into the resolution.
We need a motion on hearing, though, or not? No? Okay. Action on resolution 2019-64, collection of assessments.
This says 2018. 2018.
Mine says 2019-64 on this.
It's definitely down below it.
Oh. Yeah, I see what it says.
But on my
It should be
electronic
20, it
bill,
should be
says-
2019-64.
My electronic one says,
I think are you looking at, go down or back to the top, please? Where it says 2018 construction project.
no,
20
I'm looking on the thumbnail of the electronic
you're on
document. Okay, okay,
Okay.
okay. Okay, I just wanted to. Okay, I'll move approval of 2019-64 resolution for nuisance, special assessment and sidewalk.
Okay, motion by Mr. Rice, second by Mr. Savers. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address it? Does this have to be roll call?
Won't hurt to do roll call. I don't think it has to
Roll
be,
call
but
vote,
might
please.
as well.
Allen.
Aye.
Sharks.
Aye.
Sabers.
Aye.
Rice.
Aye.
Dosher. McCardle.
Aye.
Motion carries. Action to approve resolution 2019-65, application to South Dakota Department of Water and Natural Resources for grant funds to use in the single stream recycling program application. Mr. Croce.
Mr. Mayor and Council, so this is a requirement for the grant application for South Dakota Board of Water and Natural Resources. This would include our estimate for the containers, equipment, structure improvements, and education materials. And this is our initial estimate. We think we would come under that amount with the percent grant that we anticipate, but this was the amount for $1,095,000. So the staff recommends board approval.
Move to approve.
Motion by Mr. Allen.
Second. I have a
Mrs.
question.
Sharks.
Just out of curiosity, so the forms that you're sending out regarding the size of container, will those be included in billing statements, or how will those go out?
So what we asked was, we'll send them out as a flyer, actually, not with the billing, not with the water billing. We're sending that out in a flyer. It's also on our website, and there are copies right here. People can hand them in at the Public Works office as well. So there's a number of ways we're trying to reach people and get the information, and then based on the information that we receive, we'll order the size cans.
And does the city have a preference? I mean, is there one that would work better with trucks or anything like that?
So I think we're scheduling everything on the 95, but of course, if someone comes in and says they would prefer the 64, that's fine. Our trucks will work with that as well. The automated truck will work with that. Our preference, I think, on bulk purchase would be for all the 95, but they'll honor the price if we give them the 64 count as well. So if there is no answer, default will be the residents will get the 95. They'll get the larger size.
Okay, further discussion? Does anybody in the audience wish to address this?
I think it's real important to emphasize that they're only going to be picked up every 2 weeks. We're all used to recycling weekly. So when they say that I don't need that size, remind them that they're going to pick up every 2 weeks, not every week.
That's a great point. I think we have that on the flyer as well, but that's a great point. We're going to start out collecting every other week on the same garbage collection day that you're collected for trash. But it would be every other week.
I will point out that this morning I drove from 7th to 15th, 15th, and then between Maine and Sanborn, and there were only 12 recycling containers placed out. So nobody's doing it right now. I've had that complaint today several times as well, that they're still out and full, so they're not empty. Okay, further discussion? Anybody in the audience want to address it? Okay, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay?
Nay.
Okay, one. Action to approve Resolution R 2019-66, South Dakota Department of Transportation for design of Raleigh Street Interstate Bridge Crossing Project 2020-2.
Mr. Mayor and Council, so this is part of the design that we are working with the DOT on for the bike path and the sidewalk that goes underneath the interstate at Raleigh. And so we would use the DOT's engineer to move forward on that plan. Hopefully we would get that fairly quickly. They're ready. Their engineer gave us the estimate. DOT gave us the engineer's estimate, I should say. And so this is the city's cost for the design of that bike path and sidewalk in that area.
Move approval.
Motion by Mr. Rice.
How soon can it go? Be a 2020 project? 2021? Okay.
Motion by Mr. Rice. Second by Mr. McCardle. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address it? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Second reading of ordinance O 2019-13, amending bid 2 to extend SEA funding, Sports and Entertainment Authority.
I don't have anything new to add on this one.
Move to place in second reading.
Motion by Mr. Allen.
Second.
Second by Mr. Rice. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address it? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Motion by Mrs. Charks to adopt. Second by Mr. McCardle to adopt. Further discussion? Roll call.
Charts. Aye. Savers.
Aye.
Rice.
Aye.
Dosher. McCardle.
Aye.
Allen.
Aye.
Motion carries. Second reading of ordinance O 2019-19, 2020 annual appropriations ordinance.
We don't have any changes in this ordinance from the last reading. One clarification that I wanted to make, just for, in case there was any confusion, when we were talking about money that was earmarked in contingency for any potential sales tax shortfall, we were talking about the 2019 budget. Michelle reported earlier today on what our current sales tax collection numbers are. Just a reminder that we collect 57% of our total sales tax in the third and fourth quarter of the year. So looking at trending from previous years, you know, if you look closer to last year or the year before, it shows that we're going to be down, but we're still going to be below what we have earmarked in 2019 reserves. And again, we took a conservative approach for 2020 as well. Otherwise, I don't have any other comments unless council had any additional questions. Nothing has changed from the first reading.
Move to place in second reading.
Motion by Mr. Allen. Second by Mrs. Charks. Further discussion? Is there anybody in the audience that wishes to address it? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Motion to adopt ordinance O 2019-19. Motion by Mr. Rice. Second by Mr. McCardle. Further discussion? Call, please.
Savers.
Aye.
Rice.
Aye.
Dosher. McCardle. Allen.
Aye.
Charts. Aye.
Motion carries. First reading on ordinance O 2019-20, amending Mitchell City Code Section 89C6, drainage plan submittal requirements. Amazing this shows up tonight, isn't it? This, Mr. Croce wants to speak to it.
Sure. So, I think we understand the importance of the drainage issues and the part of planning on the drainage. Right now, this would change the ordinance, and Justin can add that as well. So It would change the ordinance to require that any commercial development, regardless of size, would be required to provide a drainage plan. I think that's a good step in the right direction. The drainage plans will help with the neighborhood in that area of development. I think that would just be a way forward for us to get an improvement on the drainage in the city. So here to answer any questions.
In essence, what we're doing is taking away where it might be required under 1 acre and required for any commercial property and any development, say housing development that's an acre or more. And what we have seen in the last few days is a result of some of these not being done.
So if you have a house over an acre.
Nope, but that's a residence, commercial.
They give it over an acre, it's all commercial?
All commercial, by development, we're talking like a housing development.
Right.
Which you would have to be over an acre because you're only gonna get about 2 lots on 1 acre.
Actually, Mayor, if it was over 1 acre, then it would apply whether it's residential, commercial,
okay.
industrial,
A house
whatever
over
it
an
might
acre
be.
would require.
So if I bought an acre and a half of land, 60,000 square feet, and I got to go ahead and get a engineer's stamp of approval to build a home on it?
If it's over an acre, correct.
Well, I always give it the first reading, but I won't give it the second one.
Second?
Okay, a motion, were you making a motion?
Yes, that was my motion.
Motion by Mr. Allen, second by Mrs. Charles. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address it? Okay, all those in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. First reading on ordinance O 2019-21, revising Mitchell City Code Title 4, Chapter 4, Vehicles for Hire by reorganizing, renaming, and amending the sections thereto.
All right. Just getting my staff report pulled up here quick. All right. So this has kind of been a culmination of a number of complaints we've been receiving over the last year or so since we first welcomed Lyft into the community. Our original approach when Lyft came into town was for us to require the individual Lyft drivers to come in and get their own license to be able to operate. They were also required to have their vehicles inspected, and many of the drivers were complaining that was more of a burden on them since they're individuals and not necessarily a full taxi operation. And our code wasn't set up to simply allow Lyft to come in, get a license, and let people run under them. So we kind of took a broad brush to the entire chapter and tried to come up with an approach that would work for both the TNC companies like Lyft and then your traditional taxi type operations. So under the new system, both are going to be required to get a license. And we did change our application process a little bit, and we'll end up having to change our application form a little bit once this would go into effect. I wouldn't say that they're major changes, but it gives the council a little bit more specific criteria to look at when they're considering an application for approval. It makes the process a little bit more definite as to when applications need to be submitted and when they would come in front of council, that kind of thing. State law actually restricts us a little bit on what we can do for insurance requirements on TNCs, so we do have to have a little bit different language as to what we're requiring for TNCs and what we're requiring for your vehicle for hire companies. You look at that section 445, that's part of our existing application process where the finance officer notifies public safety and the city attorney of new applications. That would continue. Under 446, again, this is also mostly carryover, where we're discussing rate regulations. That's something that we have in place now. The council, to my knowledge, has never implemented any rate restrictions. And I don't know that we've required those rates to be posted in the past, but the intention would be for the customer to know what they're going to get charged before they end up taking the ride. The vehicle requirements, we did change a little bit. Right now, we were under our current ordinance, we're requiring people to have their vehicles inspected before they go into service. Under the new ordinance, we would not be requiring them to do that before they go into service, but they are responsible for maintenance as long as that vehicle is in service, and they can be called in if there's a suspected violation at any time. So that should help, particularly help the Lyft drivers from having to come in and arrange for all that before they can start giving rides. The exemptions that we have there, that's also mostly an existing practice from a couple years ago when we implemented some changes. Basically, the purpose of that exception is to allow some of the out-of-town vehicle for hire companies to come in without having to comply fully with our ordinance and get a license. But it's just, you know, people that are coming here for a couple times a year, maybe doing limo rides during prom or something like that. And then the revocation section, I think this is also mostly carryover. And if you go on to section 2 at the end there, since we're getting closer to the end of the year, the idea was going to be to have the new licenses go into effect as of January 1st and have people continue on in their existing licenses up until that time so that they don't have to go through the process twice here over the next couple of months. So people that have their existing operation, they're good to go through the end of the year. And then as we get into that November, December timeframe and people would be coming in for renewals, we'll be treating them all as new applications for the new license.
Explain to me how you think the complaint process would go. So if I hired a driver or a taxi or a vehicle for hire standard, by what's to the police department, to just anybody in city government, or how do you envision that?
Yeah, the ordinance is intended to direct those to the police department. That's what we're requiring them to give information for, is for the non-emergency police line, so that people can direct their complaints over there. Because if they need to follow up on an investigation as to vehicle condition or something along those lines, the PD would be the one handling that. In my discussions with Lyft and Uber, they both stated that they have their own internal complaint process that people can do through the app. But
right, but
one,
can that be shared with city government if it's required?
I I think in my discussions with them, they would be willing to forward that information along as part of the PD's investigation if
As long as it
that
gets
was
to that point,
necessary.
okay.
But it wouldn't be an automatic thing where they'll be sending us every complaint that they get.
If you needed it, could you subpoena them to give you the information?
Yeah, and they have a specific department that deals with law enforcement requests, so. And I should add that both Lyft and Uber were very cooperative throughout the process. It was kind of slow from time to time on both of our parts, but we're finally here, and I think they're both happy with where we ended up on the ordinance.
Yes, 2019,
I move approval of, is this first reading then?
Yep.
2019-21, first reading?
Motion by Mr. Rice. Second by Mrs. Charks. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address it? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carried. First reading on ordinance O 2019-22, amending MCC 3-9. Excuse me, Corn Palace Entertainment Board. This one, we're going to amend a couple items in there. Number one, the Chamber of Commerce is listed as having a member which is limited to 2 consecutive terms, which doesn't make sense because generally it's the same person and it's the chamber. So we're going to take that requirement out. We do have the director, Corn Palace director, as a member of the board, which doesn't happen on any other board, so we're removing that person. So there will be 9, 8 of whom will be term limited.
So the Corn Palace director would be like ex officio of?
Correct, just like Park and Rec does and
The golf
go to
board
golf
and
cemetery.
other stuff, okay.
Correct. Same concept. What am I forgetting?
They were voting before
Yes.
the Corn
Yes,
Palace?
they were.
Oh, okay, I didn't.
So the only ones that have term limits now would be these 7 citizens who are appointed by the council, and then the mayor appoints the city council member, and Jeff Smith currently serves in that role.
Right.
And then the Chamber of Commerce member, right? It's not a term limited one. The other thing Justin did, which was really helpful, is made it clean up that membership board part so that we can follow along a little bit better. Some of the terminology was really geared more towards a private board versus one of our city boards and how we function. You'll also see that the appointment timeline was updated. Instead of appointing new board members in July, we moved that to October because the board members do assist with Corn Palace Festival, so that will help us as well. And this is another one of those cleanup items that is just going to make it clearer for board organization. Right now, it says that they have to elect a secretary, and the secretary will take minutes. We just think that should be a staff function, especially when we are required to have those posted to the website within 4 days of the meeting if we don't have a video or audio recording available. Is that it, Justin?
Do they meet here?
They do meet here. We had our first board meeting after festival. Boy, that's been like a week or two ago already.
Last Tuesday.
We have another one coming up at the end of this month, but really these changes just came up in discussion with Jeff, the mayor, and also Kevin, and moving forward with the filling of that Corn Palace director position. So it's a good time to do the cleanup.
I'm working to get this more in line with what happens with the other boards, Park and Rec Board as well as Golf and Cemetery Board, rather than kind of a whole separate entity. The director, whoever it may be, needs to work with the board, bring whatever they're planning to do to the board for the board's recommendation and approval, and then to council.
Place on first reading.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Allen, second by Mr. Rice.
Yeah.
Further discussion? Is there anybody in the audience who wishes to address this one? All those in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. We're adjourned.